Welcome to MOTS, where we'll be applying the Manzer or Mosi Thurlow skill of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative through a binary system.
MOTS!
This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Bon Mots. We are reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And my name is Rich Perry, and I'm joined with Luis Duran.
Good evening.
Stephen Ramosi.
Hello.
Scott Thurlow.
Hee-haw.
So to start things off, I'm going to do the funny log line that we usually do. And I came up with Tango and Cash in space.
Yes. And I like that one a lot. It's perfect.
Yep. So Scott, you want to start us off with the summary?
Sure. So if you haven't seen the first movie, this is the Guardians of the Galaxy about 2 months later or so after they've saved the universe from the power of the Infinity Stone. And they're sort of just kind of kicking around, doing odd jobs. It opens with a big action sequence and stuff, which is pretty good. So, and then they eventually get to, what was it first? I'm trying to think. I'm trying not to cover too much because we'll talk about it. But essentially, the big point is Peter Quill's father, Star-Lord's father, Ego, comes down, finds him, tells him that he's Peter's father, and invites him to go to his private planet, which is him as well, essentially, to learn more about himself. And basically, he wants Peter to become him, help him become the whole universe. Mm-hmm. And then also a bunch of side plots sort of happen. Various things happen to the other Guardians. They're sort of straining, kind of fraying a bit at the ends, but eventually all put together. And then they stop Ego from enacting his plan to make himself the entire universe. And that's pretty much it. It's a lot of character building, which we'll get into. But
there is. Yeah. And a couple new characters, which were
a couple ones were thrown in, but we'll get to that.
A lot of ascended extras.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. We'll get one random new guy that just pops up,
which I like. But we'll get to all that. But yeah, it's all there.
So you're starting us up.
I'll do the intro.
All right,
the film starts us off in Missouri 34 years ago. Introduced to Ego and younger Peter's mom,
Meredith
Quill.
Meredith, younger Meredith. They're driving down. She's singing songs. Every song that comes on the radio, pretty much. Go to a Dairy Queen. Apparently, in the back of a Dairy Queen is where Ego decides to plant his seed.
It's in the forest.
Yeah.
His ego seed.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, exactly. Sowing the oats. Back to the present day. The Guardians have been, tasked to protect these batteries that the Sovereign, these for the Sovereign, which is just a group of people that, have perfect genealogy. Mm-hmm. Some interdimensional monster tries to take the batteries. They stop them, and in turn they give back Nebula, which is Gamora's sister, so they can, collect the bounty on her head. Mm-hmm. And doing so, unbeknownst to the rest of the crew, Rocket Raccoon steals some of the batteries, which makes Sovereign feel a little slighted. They go after them in intent to kill, but they eventually are saved by Ego when he wipes out their entire fleet. They do a jump to the next hospitable planet and crash land, and there Ego finally is reveals
himself.
Yeah, he reveals himself, and he's finally back with his son. And I'd say that's pretty much where the intro.
I think we agree that's the intro.
There was the title sequence is actually pretty good. It's all just Baby solid. Groot dancing around.
Mr. Blue Sky from ELO.
Yeah. While the rest of the team is battling this giant intergalactic horrible monster. Which it was good for a few laughs.
It was okay. So I guess we'll start here. I'll start here. Yes, it was very clever. Except I felt it went on too long.
A little bit, yeah.
A bit.
It was long.
Right?
But it's just credits, so I feel like it was kind of their thing.
It's all cutesy and stuff, and sure, Little Groot is cute, I suppose.
True. Because Star-Lord's dance intro was a lot more concise.
Exactly. The thing is, the film knows that's a thing that people are going to love, so it overstayed its welcome, or started to, just a bit. But yes, it was very clever and well done opening, showing the Guardians working together and having jokes and also them battling something. So it was fine. And
what's the fact that Rocket now likes to have a soundtrack while he fights?
Yeah, I mean, so that I think that goes to character building a bit, which we'll speak about. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good intro. It jumps you right in pretty fast.
Mm.
And like the sequence that they escape the Sovereigns was pretty good. And then, yeah, crash lands, Ego shows up. Hey, I'm your father. And kicks off that. So overall, I think it was pretty fine. I'm just saying, like, I'll nitpick more as we go on, but about the length of things going a little of things working or things not working, in my opinion. But intro, I think, was very solid, and I'm going to give it a solid 1.
It was good. It was enjoyable. I think what makes this whole movie is a later question, which is going to be the dialogue, and that kind of keeps things moving. It was a fine introduction. It would have been much worse if it were not for very witty and like funny dialogue. But I think it still would have worked just fine. And for that, I'm probably going to give it a positive score.
Yeah, I'll give it a 1. A lot because thinking back on it now, there's a lot of callbacks.
Yes.
That
which
really, it's a good structure that they had on there.
Like a callback to one of the after credit scenes too.
Yeah, so it's all solid. All that's there, and like I said, it's a damn good introduction, a good Guardians introduction, good introduction to a superhero movie in general.
Yeah,
I think.
Close that out with a 1.
All right.
Yeah.
Steve, you're up.
I'm going to give it a 1 as well. All right. So the body begins. Basically, they're on this planet. Their ship has crashed. Ego shows up, and he basically says, "Hey, Peter, I'm your father." Doesn't cut his hand off, which is a good start.
Shut the fuck up.
Go on.
It's not that far off, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, anyway.
And he says, "Why don't you come with me to my planet?" To Peter. And so Peter takes Gamora and Drax and leaves Rocket and Baby Groot with Nebula.
Well, they're fixing the ship.
To fix the ship.
And watch Nebula.
So that they can get out of there. So they kind of splits the group into 2 parts. The one part is on the planet, Yondu shows up,
and the Ravagers,
who you will recall from the first movie, and the Ravagers, and attack Rocket and Baby Groot, and Nebula actually gets free at that point, and they go on this whole kind of side. Not mission, but they go on this whole side thing of like where they're all captured and just
in
the Ravagers.
Real quickly, the reason they show up is because the Sovereigns have hired them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then back on the planet, you're finding out a lot about Peter's past and who he is, stuff like that, which is all interesting. And actually, there's another new character, Mantis, who is I forget what she says. What does she call herself?
She's an empath.
That's right.
For Ego.
But she can sense and change moods of people or whatever. And her and Drax hit it off. I think because Drax has the weirdest goddamn emotions in the universe.
She's almost like drunk off of his laughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they have their own little side thing. Gamora is off kind of doing her thing. Her and Peter get into a fight. Anyway, it turns out, as it turns out, back to Rocket and the rest of the crew, they eventually escape through a series of hilarious things. Yondu has now kind of moved over to their side and taken their side. So
again, they call a mutiny against Yondu because they feel he's getting weak.
Exactly. They think he's being weak because he's kind of protecting Peter every chance he gets. This movie is just like collecting new members of the team, basically. Yeah. So Yondu becomes a new member. Mantis is a new member. Nebula by the end is a new member.
Sure.
But they go off and they kind of take over the ship once Yondu gets his arrow power back. And they take the ship and they go to Ego, which is the planet that everybody else is on. I think that's about where it ends.
700 gate jumps in
right?
a row.
Like at that point, Ego starts to like skipping back. Ego starts to explain his master like evil plan to Peter.
Well, to him,
I don't know if
it's
it's evil, but yeah. You know what I mean?
His meaning, like the meaning to his life or his existence.
Sure, whatever.
Whatever you want. Yeah,
him destroying every life in the universe.
He's just becoming it. Anyways, we can nitpick that later. But
he's wiping them out and replacing them with him.
But they're lower life forms, so it's okay.
Yeah. Sure.
He's got to make room for the...
You can take that as you will. Maybe
either way,
maybe it's not.
He did put the tumor in Meredith's brain, regardless.
And he killed Peter's mom, which actually... Peter didn't even care about him taking over every other person in the universe, but What he did care about was that Ego killed his mom.
Oh, how quickly he snapped out of that trance he put him in.
And, yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the end of the body. I may have gone a little long describing, but
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
There's a lot to cover.
I think I covered most of the main points. I'm sure you guys have a couple things that you want to mention as well.
No,
But-
the thing I want to mention is just that, as we just said, a lot is happening. Like, they throw a lot of things into the body. So, like, they have to keep cutting back and forth between, Rocket and the Ravengers, and then
I
back
feel
to
like
Ego.
they handled it well, though.
they did.
It's difficult for me because I coming out of the movie, I thought I was going to give the body a 0, only because they have to juggle so many elements. And while I agree, Rich, that they did it pretty well, it started to feel again a little bit dragging on a bit to me before the final confrontation happened. So yeah, a lot of things.
I see that.
So
I could see that.
it's a double-edged sword because yes, there's a lot of good and interesting character development, but at the same time, that means that the plot itself sort of is standing still. In a way, that's all I'm saying. So I'm kind of wavering. It might be a soft 0, but I just felt maybe they could have stripped some elements out of it, and it would have made it more streamlined and condensed a bit more.
Oh, I guess another big thing is Nebula gets away at some point and comes after Gamora, who's on Ego.
Oh yeah,
Right.
she leaves during the mutiny.
Exactly. So she's
So all that's happening, all these moving parts.
Her and Gamora get into this big fight right before the whole showdown with Peter and Ego. So there is a ton going on, and at points I liked it for the most part. I'm probably going to give it a 1, but I can see giving it a 0 because there were points where it was well, maybe we could have put this in another movie
Exactly,
or made this
that's all I'm
happen,
saying.
in a different order because
He was going to put
there's so
Adam
many balls
Warlock
there.
in this movie.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can I add another
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, it was
I'm
gonna
glad he
happen,
cut him out.
yeah. Let's say they
Yeah.
could have maybe
But
just
put that in Volume
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
You know?
they just could have maybe who does Gunn, right?
Yeah.
James Gunn.
Yeah.
Maybe it should have been all right, we have so many things to consider and balance. Maybe we could remove this and that, and the other thing. And again, it would have made it more streamlined to me. Even though yes, I enjoyed it overall. Just again, it wasn't quite meandering because I use that term a lot. It's just that there was so much stuff that it's hard to keep track of it all. Even though I think they did a respectable job for throwing so many things into a bucket and trying to keep them
I
there.
think the reason I'm not grading it as harshly is because all the characters were interesting enough for me to buy into their stories.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fair.
even when Gamora gets taken off for her own side plot with Nebula,
yeah,
they still.
again,
Yeah,
it's
I can't
fair,
think of anything that I would take out particularly. So everything I pull out, I feel like it just takes a little bit away from everything else.
Yeah.
Maybe Taserface. 'Cause I wasn't really.
Yeah, we'll speak about him later.
Yeah.
But like I said,
He was there for laughs. So I thought that part was pretty funny.
I guess,
Maybe it didn't
but
work so much for
there
you,
are
but
4 side plots. All I'm saying is to the body that they have to keep jumping back and forth between, and maybe it should have made it 3 at
they
most.
had to I feel like they had to make all these new characters work as part of this team, and maybe it was a little too much.
I don't know. Like I said, maybe
I mean,
it was handled better than most.
it was handled very well,
I think it was
Sure.
handled very
but it
well.
was a lot.
that's what I'm saying.
It was all right. So what's Nebula's reason for getting over her bullshit and coming on
Mhm.
and working together with them? What about Yondu? What about who the hell is Mantis?
Yeah.
Why? And then in the middle of that, you have this argument between Rocket and Peter that kind of it was kind of weird to me. It just
no, like I said, the team
they
is
had
fraying
yeah.
at the edge.
Yeah, well, they had that moment also in the ship when they were trying to take over each other.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
having
yeah,
that
yeah.
one-upmanship.
That really is how it started, because then he kept pushing him and calling him a raccoon.
yeah. A trash panda.
Yeah.
And all, yeah.
Well, yeah, they all had every character
Yeah,
pretty much had.
and that's a running gag. They
a
call
mirror.
it
Because as he was walking away, it's when because then he takes another dig at him to get him back for the raccoon comment. He's call him a fucking orphan.
yeah.
All this
Yeah.
other stuff. He's you're just trying to piss everybody on the team off because it's working.
Yeah. So there's infighting, people grumbling at each other and all that stuff. So like I said, it might be a soft 0 for me. Just that I felt like he was trying to handle too much, and while it was handled well overall, I think it would have served the film better if some of it was maybe pulled back on. Is all.
Alright.
So
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm gonna still give it a 1.
Nice.
Yeah, yes, 1 for me too. Soft as it is, maybe.
Yeah.
yeah, as soft as that is, soft 0 here, but still 0.
Yeah, 1 nonetheless.
I hear you.
Sounds good.
All right, Scott, you're up with conclusion.
All right. So as we said, once Ego sort of explains to Peter that his plan is he's been seeding himself, I suppose, throughout the universe, and he's going to use that power to basically turn all planets into him. And he because Peter is the only offspring of all the alien races he's mated with that has the gene, celestial gene, to help him create, like, use the force, for lack of a better term. So, and then he's basically seducing Peter with the power and, like, with the vision of it, until he mentions the fact that indeed he was the reason that Meredith died. That snaps Peter out of it, and they basically decide to have a. Oh, let's see. We'll talk about this maybe in themes, but the son decides to overcome and go against his father's wishes, and
Call the old man out.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And all the other side characters sort of like end up deciding to. They figured out that they know either figure out and or are going to Ego anyway for various reasons to show up. And when they finally all do, of course, he's enacting his world-changing plan, his universe-changing plan. So it's a big battle trying to stop him. They, of course, come together. They put aside their differences. You know, they realize that the Guardians are, in fact, their own family. So they're going to team up and stop Ego from, again, basically replicating himself throughout the universe. And that's all fine. Like, it was pretty good. I think for everything we just said, that there's so many elements that they already introduced, it wrapped it all up pretty well. And in a pretty cool battle, you know.
Yeah.
The epic fight is always sort of like one of the centerpieces of Marvel movies. And this one was pretty solid. Don't get me wrong. And then, you know, they...
Well, yeah, not to forget also the great sacrifice that Yondu did.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. So I was going to say that's kind of in character development. Yondu indeed sacrifices himself to save Peter and basically shows the audience and Peter that he indeed really was his father or his dad, whereas Ego was just his father but didn't really raise him. Whereas Yondu
I
sort
really
of
enjoy
did.
that I don't want to use the term dragged his death out, but they made it a lot longer than most mentors get when they die. Because it's usually like a quick, like maybe shot in the heart and then die in your arms. Like he was like frozen and crushed by the vacuum of space.
No, you're right. Like it was, you're right. It's basically that, but well handled. So like, So basically, I think we'll say this in themes, but they realize again that they are indeed a family, and Peter's found his real family, although has this lost member essentially in Yondu, and he becomes an honorary member, and they give him a nice send off and all. A side thing from earlier is that Yondu is exiled essentially from the Ravengers, so he's sort of like blacklisted. But once Rocket, I believe, tells everyone what happened on Ego and like what he did to save everybody, they all show up. They have a beautifully done funeral service in space, and so he's restored in everyone's eyes. And you know, it all ties together. And then there's like 5 fucking after credit scenes which are solid, but don't really like. It's not like a Thanos teaser or anything like that.
Yeah.
But unless you're an Adam Warlock.
Adam
fan.
Warlock was.
I mean, sure. It sets
cool.
up that pretty much. That you guys are right. That's true. But I'm saying, I think it was in the same way that the intro I think was like quite well done, jumps you into it. This one gets you out of it quickly enough, although not rushed. But it all wraps up very nicely. I think it's very nicely bookended. So I'm going to give the conclusion a solid 1.
Yeah, I think they do a solid job in the ending. It's not like the greatest ending in the world, but it's a good fight scene,
like the ending
and
you
it's
need it to be.
And Yondu's sacrifice is pretty good, and I mean that's kind of all you can ask for.
The entire ending is his funeral.
Yeah,
and they actually show the
movie
characters
finishes with that. Yeah.
They actually show the characters like breaking down, especially Rocket. Like the last shot is like the single tear that rolls down his cheek.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, everybody, it's Gamora finally, going to Peter about their unspoken thing,
the UST.
putting her armor under.
Sure.
Drax is kind of moving on, so to speak, from his family, and I don't know, maybe enamoring himself with Mantis. This is like finally
he's so physically repulsed
on the inside.
Yeah.
I think she of him as well.
Yeah, and you see like Groot getting passed along like everybody. It was a really good sense of camaraderie and family and love in that last scene, which was really
what's
cool.
His name? Crag.
Kraglin, yeah.
Yeah, Kraglin, like joining the crew
Yondu's,
officially.
Yondu's former first mate now joining them. Sure,
getting the arrow as a bestowed upon him.
Sticks it into Drax.
Well, that's in the after credit scene. But yeah, like I said, it all wraps up. It brings all the character development like to a head, I would say, and sets up the Adam Warlock thing and whatever else we're going to do next.
So I'm just thinking of Drax screaming with an arrow in his neck.
And it keeps up the humor as well as of all that stuff, and it's all in there. So yeah, like I said,
oh man,
yeah, that's quite good.
Solid 1s from everyone.
I think so.
I'm gonna
give it a 1.
Say 1, yeah.
All right,
sure.
Let's see.
It's on to you, buddy.
With themes. Ohana means family.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, like the family you choose can be more important than the family you were born into.
Yeah, and it really goes into that. Like the first one went into that a little bit.
Touched upon it.
This one really went into that, and I think did a pretty good job. Kurt Russell was awesome in this.
Yes, he was. Fantastic. He was like, I think he's one of my favorite Marvel villains.
He was the perfect choice for that. I agree.
And he really drove that point home. Like his character really drove that point home. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's other.
I think that
real
was
themes. That's the main one for sure. I didn't have anything else really. I do have to mention. Ian's not here today, but he did want me to mention how much this movie follows Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces, because we're also doing that. It
kind of does, and check out our episodes on that.
Very much. There are very, very strong touchstones between this and that book. So, Ian,
this one's for you.
That one's for you.
But sure, I agree. Like the family thing is like the most obvious and overt, and I think very well handled throughout. It's them basically like, I think it's pretty well done because of the fact this movie sort of starts out with them like, it's almost like Peter's feeling the weight of the world, like keeping the team together.
Yeah.
And, so it starts breaking apart, and then of course they all come together. They realize that they in fact work very well together. They have good rapport. All those skills combined can overcome a god, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. Also, I would like to add in dealing with your past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you had everybody like...
That's a good point.
Everybody like took their time through the event. Like with Peter meeting his dad, everybody took a bit of time to themselves. Like Drax kind of came more to terms with like the loss of his family. You had Gamora trying to fix the wedge between her and Nebula and actually like get them to act as sisters.
Even the side plots were about family, sure.
Yeah.
So I'll give that like a decent...
Rocket trying to be less of an asshole. Well, I'm sorry, not be less of an asshole, but to be less of an abrasive asshole.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot was coming to terms with who he is, because I mean, everything that was directed at him pretty much was either like a comment about him being a raccoon, trash panda, what have you. Like,
basically, it was. But it was like,
at that point, his identity. Yondu even calls him out on it, saying like, "You think the scientists cared about, well, I forget to say, like your feelings are like you going." It's like, no, like they made you to be exactly what you are, but that doesn't mean that's what you have to become, like,
like just like me, my parents sold me into slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's going, he's like, I know who you are because I am you. Like, said something like that.
Yeah.
He definitely does say that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just not pretty much anything beyond that, but I think, like I said, it was well handled and, they wove it well. Like, it worked for all the characters and given the nature, like, of the team itself, it's solid. So I'll give it a solid 1.
I agree. I think, it's got to be a 1 for that. They did a good job in the few themes that they did, and they didn't bash you over the head with it.
Yeah, exactly. No. At the end of the day, this is like a fun kind of feel-goodish movie, and while they
despite how dark themes that they deal with,
a lot of people dying.
While they delved into deeper things, and we'll talk about that later on as well. We'll talk about those things in a second, but nevertheless, that's
our overall theme.
Holy shit! I just forgot how many child trafficking stories there were in that. It's like all of them were stolen children.
The implication is it's pretty dark.
Except for Drax.
Yes.
He's the only one.
Except for Drax. He's the most normal.
He had children stolen from him.
Yeah. Somewhere children are being stolen somehow is all.
Yeah. Now you think about it, that's exactly what Gamora was saying to Nebula. Like, you can help you can help the children. Yeah. Being on this team.
I can help these children by killing Thanos.
Kill Thanos, like, well, that's all right.
Yeah. Don't save children.
It's a ballsy move. It's like the bride in
kind of
Kill Bill Volume 1. Just like got Thanos in a big ass circle.
After you kill a Celestial, you think you can take on Thanos. All right. Whatever you say.
Sure. They'll save children, but not the Thanos children. But anyway.
Couldn't save those children in the bed of ego. But they got rid of the evidence. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think one's themes, everybody?
Yeah, one's for themes.
One's on a round.
Yep.
Lou, you're up next.
So antagonist. All right. Well, I might get some heat from the internet, but I say ego, I guess, is the antagonist.
Yeah, of course he is. Okay.
That's how he can be. Sovereign, of course, they're like the backseat antagonists.
Yes.
They have a very interesting arc. I'm assuming that since they took out Adam Warlock, they didn't make such a much more big impact. Because they had like very weird, like, I guess, funny ways showing how they do battles and everything. They're all like, they make it kind of like a arcade.
Yeah, they're in VR, like remote drones.
Yeah, they're remote drones, and like they're all rooting behind the last person that survived, and I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But Ego, I think, obviously, we mentioned before, Kurt Russell stole the show. Like, he was just phenomenal.
Yeah. He brings a lot of presence to it.
He's so affable.
Yeah. And of course, like, if a Kurt Russell game was just like, I'm your father, like, oh, and I'm a celestial, like, all right, that's awesome, man. Like, yes.
It's like, you're a god
good.
with a little G.
Yeah.
Little G.
Yeah. And when I'm feeling as humble as Drax, I was like, you son of a bitch.
It's a good line.
He's a smart guy, man.
No, it's a good line. He sold it. It was a good casting choice. I agree with all of that.
Yeah, I guess Taserface. Are we gonna?
Yeah.
I was actually gonna throw Taserface in there. He's kind of the antagonist for the B
story.
plot,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
With his stupid name,
Which we'll go into, but you're right about that.
He is a source of hilarity to me. But yeah, Ego is great as a villain.
It's crazy that like the ineffectual villains were the ones that tried to style themselves as villains.
Yeah.
And the biggest villain in the movie never saw himself as an actual
They never do.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Like he's very personable. He's very like convincing. You know what I mean? And he doesn't think what he's doing is necessarily villainous, right?
Yeah.
So like those are kind of like the ones with charisma and personality are like the best villains because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's very meticulous, like his plan, and he drops hints here and there where you're just like, you know,
Yeah,
what? Like,
they set it up.
He's like, that left a bad taste in my mouth, but I'm gonna keep listening because I don't want to piss off us. It's either my father or whatever. Like, I was reading online actually. Ego only interacts pretty much with Peter. Like he almost doesn't even pay attention to the other people.
Yeah.
If at all. Like
it's true. He says like almost as an afterthought. He's like, oh, your friends can come too.
Yeah, they're just like there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Good point. So yeah, like I mean, I agree, did a great job, and I think his threat was clear at least when it was made, unveiled. But his entire plan.
Know what though? Like his plan would have worked if he just waited a little longer. Like for an eons old planet.
Sure.
I mean, he could have waited like another 50 or so years after the rest of the Guardians died off. Peter's like heroic side is just like, I'm tired of seeing my friends die. I'm ready to just retire with you, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But
or he could have just not told him that he killed his mom.
Oh, that too.
Yeah. His fatal mistake. But anyway, I mean, all I'm saying is like, I think he did a good job. It was a well done villain.
Why would he think that?
I guess he just didn't think it mattered at that point, right?
He thinks he thinks that he's convinced Peter to be above it all at that point, and clearly
feel so bad about killing your mother. You're only tethered to
or not even that, but like he was like, well, I got him here now. I could just take what I want, which he tried to do anyway.
Yeah, that's
like,
true. Yeah.
You know, he didn't feel like he needed him to want to go along with it at that point.
Yeah,
right?
It would have been nice, but he was going to do it anyway.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm definitely giving him a 1, and also sure, Taserface was all right secondarily of the mutiny part. And Nebula wasn't even a villain.
He's all right.
You wouldn't say
he's all right at best. You know what I mean? Well, I'm getting to it. I think secondary will be me, so when we get to it, we'll get to it. But
Nebula wasn't a villain.
No, but I will talk about her in just a moment.
All right.
So that's ones all around for antagonists.
Anything else to say?
Steve-O, you're up with Protag.
All right, I'm going to go with Protag. And this is like Star-Lord, Peter is supposed to be the main protagonist. However, it's the whole Guardians.
It's an ensemble.
Yeah.
Everybody's a protagonist of this, right? And like including all the new ones, I think. So you got, along with Star-Lord and Drax and Gamora and Rocket and Groot, you have Mantis and Yondu and
Nebula. And shit, even Kraglin.
Yeah.
Which I'm getting to him too, but yeah,
he might be a he might be
a late comer.
Yeah,
he's a late comer, but he's
supporting.
He's there.
I don't know. I would say Groot really wasn't. He kind of like they didn't really need to do much with him.
Well,
he didn't really have an arc.
Except push the button.
Yeah. He was the entire reason that they were able to win.
Well, they did a lot with him, but that's more like the Disneyfication.
That seemed like it could have been a plot, like just a plot thing that they're like, well, we have Groot doing nothing.
Right.
Maybe, but anyway.
They should have had him lay low for the movie and just have him do stuff in the background.
Yeah. They should have had less Groot. I'll tell you guys that much.
Oh my god, that'd be a great to flip it so that they have another Guardians opening that they shot where it's like the actual battle with Groot dancing in the background while the music's going on.
I'd be happy if there was a alternate director's cut somehow or something of that. But
yeah.
But
or
anyway.
if you see this whole movie from Groot's point of view.
I wouldn't want that. Is all I'm saying. But I have words to say about Groot, but go on.
No, but everybody was solid in this flick. Everybody did a good job. It wasn't, it was exactly, they were all exactly what I thought they were going to be after seeing the first one. I think I probably liked the first movie a little bit better than this one. But the crew was they had just as much chemistry, and they all were good protagonists. I mean, that's pretty much it.
I don't disagree. Yes, it's an ensemble piece, and it's, again, like a fun sort of like buddy action-ish film in general. But I'm going to channel also Ian. This is something, sort of his framework hypothesis that he came up with, I believe, for Age of Ultron, for Avengers, where because the nature of the Guardians is like, this movie is the quintessential, it's like, it's popcorn movie, the movie, pretty much. So that means like they have to have a character that appeals to every, like, the large swath of audience members who are going to go see it. So for example, us being, say, millennials, we're Peter Quill. We want to be him, like to think ourselves as him. And then you got your jackass friend, which is Rocket, like, things like that. Mm-hmm. Your sort of jock friend who like doesn't understand your nerd culture as much, but learning. That's Drax, right? You got the hot chick, or if you're a woman, maybe you aspire to be Gamora and you want to sleep with Peter Quill. You know what I mean? Like, if you can work either way.
Or be a badass fucking ninja chick.
Or let's be a badass action chick, yes. Then you got Yondu, who's like your cool uncle, or your cool like older parents' friend or something, who like hangs out with you like throughout your life. Then you got your actual estranged father, comes back, wants you to run the family business. At this point, you don't, that's not for me. Do it. Nope. We're having a big deal. It's something for everybody, really. So like, you can see like whoever you like identify with, then you're going to like that character the most.
Yeah.
More or less. And then, sure, they introduced some other ones as well. All I'm saying is like, keep that framework in mind. Like, it was just obvious to me that they were going for that. Like, that's just how this sort of movie works in generally.
Well, that's what the team has always been. Like, and I'm going to say they've been coming out with comics forever.
I'm going to save some of this for maybe dialogue and style that I'm going to go into, but I'm just saying, view through that framework, and yes, they pretty much all work well because of the setup they've already had and the chemistry that all the actors and so forth like have with themselves, and the strength of writing. Yeah, they did a good job. They were interesting protagonists for the most part, and they even did like we said, a lot of character development within that, fleshes out the team dynamics and so forth. So yeah. The Guardians themselves get a 1 from me, and the new ones that they introduced also were damn solid. That's all I can say on that.
Although I will say, Mantis didn't have much of a point. Yeah. I think they're setting her up for like future, for like the next one or something. But she was kind of she was there kind of just to be a foil for Drax, and then
they were like the comic.
That was about it.
But sure,
she had like necessary plot reveal.
She didn't really have much of a backstory.
Oh no, she definitely didn't. He found her and he used her as a sleeping aid.
She had like 2 lines about it.
In that way, she didn't really have a character arc either. I don't understand why she.
Well, her character arc was her gaining a personality.
Yeah.
Yes.
She never met other beings.
Because like if you notice, she's learning how to emote, because like she can't even smile in the beginning. Yeah. Like, the more she hangs out with Drax, the more she starts to learn more about herself. And like when she goes to Gamora, she's like, I found out I'm a pet and I'm ugly. She's like, what? You're not ugly.
Yeah, so I was going to speak more about that in a second.
She's like, no, and she like by the end she becomes more than a pet.
Yeah,
right.
Like breaking her, like when she's like, oh, I can't put him to sleep. He's a fucking planet.
Yeah.
And Drax is like, you can do it. It's like, I never thought that you could do it, but it's great that you did.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, in that light, I wasn't too high on Mantis, but yeah, now that you mentioned it, it's pretty solid.
Better arc than you thought, maybe. Yeah, sure.
Plus, she took a piece of flying spaceship to the dome and survived.
Somehow lives, sure.
Look out!
I tried, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll give it a 1 for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to give it a 1.
Scott with
all right.
supporting.
So speaking of secondary, so I put her in secondary for the most part. They're sort of setting her up, as you said. So yes, she doesn't have that much of a backstory, though she like has 2 senses. Like, yeah, he found me and I'm basically a pet and I'm his sleeping aid, more or less. I'm like his sleeping pill, embodied. And Yondu certainly, like, I think had the most important and best secondary character arc, who then at the end sort of becomes sort of a posthumous protagonist, I guess I kind of want to say.
I would say like half the movie was about him, though.
Yeah, I count him as a protagonist.
It's difficult, but it's not that I disagree with that per se, Rich. It's just that he's all part of that, all the shit that's happening. So I don't know. like Nebula, you could almost make the same case, even though she was like lesser, like less screen time overall versus him. But yeah, all that stuff's happening. But I still think it's basically the core members, and then
his actions kind of really put the story into work too.
Kind of like, again, I don't disagree, but I think they're in my mind
Nebulas.
Yeah, in my mind, like they sort of like count and like sort of like all taken together, like it all comes together, like we said in the actual like plot. And also, oh God, what is Yondu's first mate's name again?
Kraglin.
Yeah.
Kraglin.
I liked him. Like, he was an enjoyable character, so I enjoyed when he was on screen. And I guess Laser Face or whatever, like...
Taser Face.
Could be
metaphorical.
Could be there, too. For what? But yeah, I thought he was the weakest, in fact. Like, even though, yes, that was a funny joke, but I think that was one of the things that overstayed its welcome. Like, there was too much of that. You know what I mean? It's okay that he was there. Yeah, sure. He was leader of the mutant. I didn't
find his name or his moniker as hilarious as Rocket found it until he started describing why he found it hilarious, and then it became hilarious.
Sure, like it's almost like sometimes the movie is like subvertedly like clever, I guess. Like I don't know what to say, but and maybe we'll get to that at least next two questions. But all I'm saying for secondary, I think they just solidly rounded out job. And Kraglin's my favorite if I had to pick one. Although Yondu, I think, again, like I said, had a more important part to the story. But I still count him as a secondary. Like, the most important secondary character by far, yes. But I'll count him there. And everyone else, like I said, all the others did a pretty solid job, too.
Favorite Stallone.
I was like, cameos.
I was gonna say Sly, man. Can't forget Sly.
Yeah.
Ravagers was a really...
His whole, like...
cool.
Because I thought it was just going to be that one scene of him walking out of the whorehouse.
Yeah, the
for lack of a better term, red light district.
The Bordello planet they were on or whatever.
Yeah. Brothel.
Yeah.
Robot brothel.
Yeah.
But like that whole like argument that he has with Yondu, I was like, that was a lot of pathos for
No, you're right. it like clearly,
for just a walk on role, but then had him come back a couple more times. It was pretty sweet.
It was handled better than I thought it might have been, like going into it. Sure, I'll agree with that.
That I don't know, like it was a well acted scene, I suppose, but like that part kind of fell flat for me. I was like, this could not have happened at all, and this movie would be no different for it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there.
So, like, I think I'm going to give supporting a 0 just because most of the characters in this movie are either protagonists or antagonists to me.
Fair enough.
And the rest are kind of just window dressing. Like, they could be there or not, and it doesn't really matter. Like, for example,
like the Sovereign Priestess or whatever, she was there. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't much to her, but she would count too, I suppose. But you're saying, like, basically everybody else is either pro or antagonist.
Yeah, and that's fine. You could even count her as an antagonist somewhat. She is the one that, you know, her and Taserface, I would say, are the, like, B-plot antagonists for most of the movie, you know?
I guess. I get you, but I guess...
And they do chase them, they chase them all the way down to Ego. So... Yeah, I don't think there's a very strong case for supporting characters in this. I'm probably gonna give it a 0.
Fair enough. I guess it depends, like you said, where you cut them up into.
Yeah.
Like if there's nobody left in secondary, then sure. But I count the ones I said indeed as secondary in my mind, so I'm gonna give them a 1 because of that. And that's all.
Yeah, they help the world building for me. It's like even the little pieces of dialogue they gave, like kind of gave like a better. Bless you. Like a better idea about like their state of affairs out in the galaxy.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I just assumed the Ravagers was just Yondu and his crew.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And I find out there's like 99 more squadrons. I'm like, holy shit, these guys are actually
they're pretty legit.
No joke.
Sure.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence on this. I'm leaning on 1 just because I really can't like I guess I'm agreeing with what Rich said. Like it just expanded the universe just a little bit more, and you know, fed into my fandom. So, like, I gotta
give it credit on
I'll
that
say
front.
1. Yeah, like maybe obviously I'm biased on this. Aren't we all?
Still fair.
I'll say 1.
All right.
Let's cover up that Marvel fan for life tattoo. All right, I guess I'm up with dialogue.
Yep.
Solid. There were a lot of, actually I shouldn't say it's like 100% solid. There were a lot of lines that I loved. Quite a few I've been quoting. There were a couple that fell a little flat for me.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. As long as we can admit that, right? Not all of it 100% all the time.
No, not ever. Like, we were talking precast, like, outside, like, whatever, like, they're, whatever the three of you, most of it stuck, but some things fell off.
Yeah.
And then Steve-O brought up, like, maybe those things that fell off landed onto somebody else.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that was the whole point of me bringing up what I said earlier, is because when the stuff is happening that the character you identify them or like the most, then you're going to like it. Like, for example, when Rocket and Quill are like, "No, fuck you, I'm driving." Like, "No, come on, I'm better." Like, that's funny to me because that's something like we would do because that's who we are. But like other stuff, like some of the exposition-y stuff, I guess I would say, like, kind of was too much. Like, again, I agree that it's probably maybe a 70-30 split where 70% of it dialogue is very good to clever and funny, where like the other 30% is that when it was happening, I was just like disengaged. I was like, all right, like whatever. Like they tried a couple of things and not all of them worked, but more often than not, they did. So I'm probably going to give it a 1 just on that front. And you're right. There's a couple of really funny, like, in quotes that we've been throwing around in the wake of seeing it. I'm just saying, like, as long as we admit that some of it sometimes falls flat. For something, that's all I want to say.
Here's what I'm going to say. I agree with you. But for something that like throws out rapid fire jokes, so many rapid fire jokes, a good amount of it sticks. It's like any other,
more than most. Sure,
it's like any other comedy. And honestly, you don't see comedies that, especially like action comedies, that have this rate of
I get what you're saying.
Like jokes that they're throwing.
I think a lot of what sells it is how quickly they move between characters.
Yeah.
Like that's true. That's probably a good move. On
some of my favorite jokes are when, especially when like Peter and Rocket are yelling at each other, and like Drax like quips in every once in a while, or like asks to clarify what was just said, and then laughs once he finally gets it.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, I think dialogue is actually one of the stronger parts of this. Yeah, a couple jokes fall flat, but that happens in anything, where especially when you throw out so many like. If you're watching Futurama does a joke every like 7 seconds on average. Not all of them work, but when you put that many jokes into your episode, it's
gonna,
I
guess.
And as many as they had hit, it's kind of I feel like they're kind of similar in that way.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, but that's all I want to say. So I'll give it a solid 1 overall. I was initially just my final thought is initially going into it a little less enthusiastic about dialogue, but now I think having talked it out, it's more solid than I was going to give it.
Yeah, I didn't really. The reason I really didn't say much was I was going to quote it as 0.
Yeah.
Because as quotable as the movie is, and there's really great parts where there's they're sentimental and they're delivered good, and Kurt Russell, did a great performance. I just didn't really. I can't, for some reason, for me, I can't score it a 1.
Doesn't get to you?
Yeah, there's like, I say it's quotable, but it's,
what about when he uses, one of Peter's mom's favorite songs to like reveal his villainous plan?
Yeah.
How like basically like, just like I loved your mother, but
I did like that.
I have a greater purpose.
Yeah, the sea calls the sailor. Like that. I did love that. But, in that little bit though, throughout the whole movie, like, I just still, I don't know. I'm going to give it a soft 1.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, like I'm not, but I started out, I was going to do a 0.
It's funny.
I don't know. I wasn't really high up on it,
It's funny because I was debating this one like the most, and I could totally see myself also going with a soft 0, but I think I sort of convinced myself, and you guys did, that it deserves just enough credit to get over the line for me.
All right, 1s all around?
Yeah. No. You just gave it a 0, didn't you, Louis?
No,
he did the
same thing. Okay, got you.
So, Lou, you're up with style.
So this movie, just like the first Guardians, is very. It's very hard to say. The style is obviously like action comedy,
Marvel action movie,
comic action comedy. Yes. But I'd say with this, obviously, humor being one of the biggest influence,
like the foundation of this movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
What pillars, I guess.
Kind of what not launched the franchise, but kind of gave it its own style. Its own
recognizable
I think
flair.
This one they needed to pull the reins a little. I mean, we've already discussed the jokes and everything, but there's occasions where if they just pulled it back a little more, it would just been so much better. Like some of the moments with Drax and Mantis, the taser face thing. I mean, still, I'm just like, I was like,
I would like when he started dry heaving, like picturing the two of them.
Yeah, I was
sex. Like that was taken a little too far for
me. Another moment too with when Kraglin asked Nebula what she's going to do with money. I was just like, jeez. Like, I know she's a very intense character. Obviously, like that's what they're doing with her character arc. That she's going to soften a little near the end. But I was like, damn, like it didn't have to. It was like almost a 30-second just ran. And then it just like the camera just kept closer and closer. And I get it.
You're right.
Like, yeah, but maybe 20 seconds.
I agree with you. Here's the thing, right? I thought that very same thing, and that's a perfect example, like that scene specifically. But I was debating with myself whether or not like they intend, like they were going over the top, like on purpose.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. Like this is the one.
They definitely were.
I'm also wavering on.
Well, the Pac-Man thing too was another thing that I thought was a little maybe much, but they set it up, so it was a great callback.
So here's the thing, right?
Especially the fact they pulled on, they showed Kraglin's face, like matching the audience. It's like, damn, that was intense.
Yeah, I mean that was exactly the point. That's what they were trying to do with that.
Like I get it, but I think all right. I'll call it back to what we said about the intro. There was almost like too much group. I would rather have seen, them fighting. Like, so it's like throughout, there were things like that when I agree with you. Like, it was like just, if you just reined it in just a little bit, I think it would have worked better. So like, while like, it was a cool looking movie overall, sure. And like Ego, the planet itself looked pretty great. And like all that kind of stuff. And like, the brothel, like planet, like that's pretty solid. Like, the sovereigns and stuff like that. It was all fine, but it was noticeably odd at moments when I felt it was going too far. So like, and there was definitely too much group, but I get that because they're playing it up to the kids and like all that stuff.
They gotta sell those bobbleheads. It's
marketable, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there you go.
For sure. So that's kind of how I come down it. I think I'm on your side. What do you think?
Yeah, I tend to look at style in more of like the technical aspects of the thing than perhaps other people do. And so in terms of that, the music was amazing, obviously.
Well, we didn't bring up soundtrack.
It's almost like a give. I was waiting for you to do it.
The music was incredible.
Your thing, but yes, of course it was.
Cinematography in this movie was pretty damn cool.
I agree with that.
They did a lot with special effects and practical effects. I'm pretty sure they did a lot with as well. Everything looked good, and the way that the camera was used, I thought, was really well done. James Gunn, as director, I think really knows what he's doing behind the camera.
Agree.
So in terms of that, I'm gonna have to give it a good score because that's kind of what I look at when I look at style.
Yeah.
Also, to say, I really enjoyed how the moments that didn't have dialogue really sold a lot of the emotion in the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because especially like
I agree with that too.
Like the darker moments, or like even Ego's big reveal to Peter. Like, he just wordlessly snaps out of it and then shoots the shit out of him until there's, like, basically nothing left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ego's reaction is hilarious. He's like, who the hell you think you are?
Sure.
Well, I mean, going back also to what Steve was saying, like, there was a really great shots in this movie. And, obviously throughout the whole movie, they're doing, sentimental moment, punchline, sentimental moment, punchline. But at the end, it's like, it's Yondu's funeral, and you see this great shot of Ego to every single character, and then the last shot is just somehow as I'm going to describe it, it sounds like the end of the punchline to a joke. It's a crying raccoon, and the movie ends like that's like. But it's a beautiful scene. You're just like, you know what? They didn't need. There's no joke. There's no anything. Like it's just a funeral. A guy finally is redeemed. Posthumously. Yeah. And he's getting his Ravager, like, I forgot what they call it, like, it wasn't fireworks, it was like...
Had some name to it.
It was like it was like ceremony.
Yeah.
Some ceremonial name. And I thought that the way it ended, I was like, that's perfect. That's exactly... And, excluding the post-credit scenes, of course, like, that brings levity.
Well, they had to bring some levity back.
Yeah. Sure.
But for me, this is a solid one.
I don't know. Good, yeah. Anything else?
Style-wise?
Plus, what I look for in these movies...
I haven't said yet.
What I look for in these movies, too, is just how they're going to introduce, like, new alien life forms, what other planet locales are going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And especially Ego's planet was beautiful.
Right, it was awesome.
Phenomenal.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I completely agree
with all that.
And the song playing over it, too, George Harrison, I think. Yeah, I was like, damn, man. Like, that song's been in my head ever since we watched it today, and I was just, like, it was just beautiful. Like, and for, how the soundtrack was such a huge hit in the first movie.
Sure, yeah, it's a big part.
Like this one, it's integral, and obviously the whole thing with Ego and that one song and
Brandy.
Yeah. Like all the songs kind of melded with the scenes.
Yes, they were,
which is
fitting.
Awesome. Yeah,
they had a lot of they had a couple more callbacks too.
Whoever
to times that the songs were played previously.
That's true too. I noticed that as well. At least for the Fleetwood Mac song for sure.
Yeah.
I forget who the director was, but whoever the director of Suicide Squad was should take notes about how to use music in a movie.
Right. That's funny. All right, but the thing is, like, I agree with you, Steve. Like, technically, yeah, it looked great, and James Gunn knows what he's doing. I just don't like all the points that I gave to dialogue, like things like the Nebula thing we just said. I don't want to. It's harsh because
I'm not trying to convince you how to look at it.
I'm trying to convince myself, taking everything we just said, like what I should actually, how much weight I should give it. Because yes, it mostly. You're right. Like the Ego, the whole thing looked great, and like the stuff in space, all that stuff. I don't know. Like I wanted to take points away, but I don't know if I actually fairly can. At this point, so maybe I will indeed end up giving Style a 1 overall because, again, I guess I'll say more often than not, it was more effective. Like I thought it was better than when maybe I saw like a crack or two, and like, oh, that was odd, or like they could have like pulled back there. But you know what? Still, it was better than the weak parts of it were by far. So,
oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. Mm-hmm. Rich, you giving it a 1 as well?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Scott, I guess that means we're on to you with recommendation.
All right, yeah, and go fucking see Guardians of the Galaxy 2, man. Like, if you like the first one, it's more the same and a little bit bigger. Like, it's a big, fun, like, feel-good kind of movie, even though they've dressed, some perhaps less feel-goody things, if you will, within.
There's some darker elements.
Yeah, some characters had to confront a couple of things about themselves, about their past, sure. But at the end of the day, they all put together, they know they're a family, and it's just a great action movie, like, it's sort of like, not tangential, of course, like the Avengers main stuff, but Guardian Galaxy is more of a fun, lighthearted kind of, group of heroes, basically, at the end of the day, than some of the others are.
I love how within, like, the timeline of the movies, within 2 months, they've, like, broken up and gotten back together and gotten over their bullshit. Whereas it's taken the Avengers, like, 3 years?
Yeah.
And then...
Sure, that's because they're in space, like, they do a lot more things. Well, I'm saying, I mean... It's
save
good.
The galaxy or save the universe twice.
Yeah, exactly. It's a next big huge.
They're actually at a higher pay level in the Avengers now.
Yes, I'm saying this next big huge a space opera essentially, like action comedy in Marvel's lineup, and it was excellent. Totally with it. What I said is I was going to ask you guys, like, do you think it's better or worse, or how does it stand to the first Guardians? I think we decided that you should, in fact, like Kill Bill style, you should watch them both. Back to back as one big movie, and you would enjoy it.
I think
that
as
much.
one movie, it works better than having them as separate films.
So yeah, I definitely give it a very strong 1. Go out; it's going to make billions of dollars, whatever it's going to make. It's going to make a lot of money, and I think deservedly so. They did a good job, good follow up. Even though there were some maybe stumbling points, little cracks here and there, by and large, it was very well done and a very enjoyable, and I felt satisfactory follow up to Guardians.
Well, as I said a little bit earlier, I did enjoy the first one a little bit better, but this one is a worthy follow-up and does a really good job as far as sequels go. I don't have that much more to say about it. Go check it out. Go watch it. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a popcorn movie. I think Scott mentioned it. It has a little bit for everybody. So yeah, why not? Go check it out.
Why not?
You'll probably find something.
Why are you watching this and not going to watch this movie? You know what, just turn this on before, like, while you're waiting for the movie to start.
Exactly. On the drive over.
Yeah.
The store.
Listen to us.
Drive over, like, during the trailers.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. It was damn well done overall. So I think
you won. Yeah.
I think Steve was going to do the scores in
Absolutely.
a sec.
Yep. I got the scores here. With 2 of us giving it 10s, Lou and Rich, and 2 of us giving it 9s, me and Scott.
It's funny. I thought we might give it an 8, but yeah.
Yeah, it's got a total aggregate score of a 9.5, which I don't know, maybe slightly high if anything, but it's pretty damn solid.
It was slightly higher than I thought we were going to get it.
I'm happy with my 9. I think a 9 is a good score for this.
I knew I was going to give it less than a 10, but 8 or 9. I was going, like I said, going into it maybe an 8, but convinced to give it an extra point. So
yeah, I know I gave it a 10, but like I don't feel it was a perfect 10 movie.
Right.
Yeah, me too.
And so it hit
all our points.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Sometimes.
I'm with you on that.
So.
All right. Anybody else got any final thoughts? I don't.
No.
I'm driving.
Yeah. Mary Poppins, y'all. So, this has been Bon Mots, reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I've been Rich Perry, Luis Duran.
Welcome to the frickin' Guardians of the Galaxy.
Stephen Amosi.
Have a good night.
Scott Thurlow.
Rich has said the one. I'm Mary Poppins also, y'all. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Pleasant tomorrow.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.